Hey guys, Jay Knowlton here once again. My Christmas tree is still up. I apologize for that. And I apologize because my hair will not stay down. I did try and get it cut yesterday, but there was only one lady in the shop and she said, it's going to take a while to get to you. And I said, don't worry, I'll come again maybe in another month because I don't like getting my hair cut. So, it is 2026 and I came to Japan in 2013. A lot has changed in the world since then. So, I want to talk about whether I think it's still worth coming to Japan in 2026 the same way that I came to Japan in 2013, which is as an English teacher. So, I came to Japan with a company called Peppy Kids Club. I applied from overseas, did an in person interview in an office in London. I think it was a shared office between many Japanese businesses that were operating in London as well. And they sponsored my visa to come and move to Japan, where I lived in Gunma for 2.5 years before I moved on to something else. And my salary at that time was 240,000 yen, which did go up to 250,000 yen after 1 year. Now, the variety of jobs that you can do to come to Japan has grown exponentially. But I would just like to talk about English teaching in this video because I think that's still probably the easiest way to come to Japan. Not that I'm saying it's the best way to come to Japan, I just think it's the easiest way to come to Japan. And that is for the simple reason that you just need a university degree and you can come over here. You don't necessarily need any experience, although it would help. You don't necessarily need any teaching qualifications, although they might help in some instances. And it's pretty easy to come, or at least it probably has got much more competitive. Because when I came to Japan, they were basically only taking people from maybe the UK, America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. The typical, when you think of English, you think of those countries plus Filipinos. And I'm going to get back to that part in a little bit. But first, I would just like to talk about salaries of coming to Japan. Now, I checked the Peppy Kids Club website and they still do offer 240,000 yen, which, the fact that they're still offering the same amount of money sounds kind of okay at first, except we have gone through inflation over the past 13 years when I came to Japan, and that's 240,000 yen when I came to Japan in 2013 is not the same 240,000 yen that you're going to be having now. Not only is everything more expensive, it's definitely much more difficult to stretch everything out. And if you do have student loans or anything back in your home country, basically, if you've got any sort of debt in your home country that isn't means tested, for example, if you're from the UK, you're probably not going to have to pay back your student loan. If you are from the US, I believe they're more strict, but you would have to let me know. I'm not sure how it works in other countries. Now, whereas Peppy Kids Club's salary is still 240,000 yen, a lot of other companies are unfortunately paying much less. Places like Interac or Borderlink, was it Heart or something like that, they're actually paying as little as 200,000 to 220,000 yen a month. And not always guaranteed pay during the summer and the winter, during the holiday times, basically. Now, this is a big issue for many people. If you were to take 200,000 yen a month, that works out to about $1,300 ish, maybe just a little bit more. Now, depending on where you're from in the US, that could be like a quarter of the average monthly salary. And I don't want people to get confused saying Japan is paying so low. That is low even for Japan. 200,000 yen a month for a job that only university graduates can do for the most part. You're not going to find many jobs in Japan that pay as low as 200,000 yen a month, especially with no significant bonuses. You might see companies that pay only 220, 30, 40,000 yen a month for Japanese graduates, but there's always the expectation of at least 2 to 3 months bonus on top of that, so it definitely sees a big boost. Now, If you have $1,300 a month in Japanese yen, 200,000, hopefully you get a bit more than that. It is technically livable in Japan. If you live in the countryside, I started off in Gunma, which is probably very, very cheap. I think my apartment was about 55,000 yen a month, but then obviously we're paying bills and stuff on top of that, probably getting up to 65, maybe 70, especially electricity is more expensive now. Of course, in your first year, you don't have to pay as much in health insurance or residence tax because they usually base it off your previous year. However, you have got to start saving for your second year because those are going to hit you like a train. Food prices are still relatively okay, so you are going to be able to live in Japan. Of course, if you couldn't, then nobody would apply for the jobs. For the most part, they know that's probably the minimum that they could get away with paying you, so that they don't, they can pocket more of the money and you can still live in Japan. Now, where this does become a problem is if you want to enjoy living in Japan. Of course, coming to Japan and working in Japan is cool, but when people think about going to Japan, I'm pretty sure they're not just planning, I'll just get a job as an English teacher and then do nothing else with my time. No, it's going to be more of the case of, I want to travel Japan. I want to eat good sushi. I want to try all of these things. I want to buy some Japanese video games. I want to go to anime conventions. Whatever your interests are, I'm sure you want to achieve and enjoy those hobbies or interests that you have. And unfortunately, the salary that they're offering is not going to be enough for you. I always recommend to bring the equivalent of 5,000 US dollars. And of course, I am from England, but I use dollars because everyone knows dollars to their, currency, whereas people might not know pounds. I would recommend to bring $5,000 because that works out to be about 750,000 yen. If you spread that over a year, if you think of it as just, I'm going to enjoy myself money, you can go to a few nice restaurants in your local area each month, or you can take a trip during the summer or anything like that. You can use that money to truly enjoy living in Japan, not just working yourself every day, because a lot of these jobs also require you to work on Saturdays so that you won't actually get to enjoy full weekends. Of course, you might get a weekday off in lieu, but if other people are working on those days, you'll just end up on your own. I did mention before about competition from other countries because, as I mentioned, the mostly stereotypical English speakers back when I came to Japan were the only people getting the jobs. Now it's opened up much more to, for example, Jamaicans, African, like Nigerians, Kenyans, people like that, people from India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, even people in Asia like Malaysia or Singapore. The scope of the people that can come here to these ALT companies and Eikaiwa companies has increased. Now, that is not a bad thing because how good you are as a teacher or an employee is not designated to your country. So, for example, just because you're from England doesn't mean you're a better teacher than somebody from Pakistan. However, what it is going to be affecting is that the minimum that they might be able to pay will drop because, for example, just looking at Kenya's average monthly salary, it's around 550 US dollars equivalent a month. Now, looking at Japan paying about 1,300, 1,350 a month, that is going to look more of a dream for you. Even though the cost of living might be a little bit different, to be able to make 2.5 times your salary and live in Japan is going to sound much more appealing than cutting your salary by 2/3 and not being able to enjoy your weekends. So the problem is that they know they can probably bring in a lot of people from less economically strong countries, and therefore they can probably keep dropping that down. Now it's around 200,000 yen a month. That could drop down to 190, 185. It could just keep going down and down and down. Because as long as those teachers are in schools and working, it doesn't really matter to them as long as they're making a profit. So that is something to be aware of, that you might be coming to Japan on a much less affluent lifestyle than what I came 2013. And then I came, like most people, on just the basic English teaching job, not really much experience teaching, although I did get a TEFL certificate and I taught 2 summers in a summer camp. I did not necessarily have the experience to just jump into a good job, a recruiter or an engineer, or I don't have any of those skills. So I had to come in the English teacher way. I taught myself Japanese, I got management experience, I got a childcare license, and now I'm the principal of an international preschool where I can make maybe 3.5 times the salary of an average ALT a year. But then it's now much harder for you because there's more ALTs, there's more Kiowa teachers, there's much more competition with much less favorable conditions. So my recommendation to people is you've got to try and get qualifications, you've got to try and get experience, you've got to save up a lot of money, you've got to learn Japanese before you come to Japan. You have got to make yourself stand out more. If you can come to Japan via other means, of course, that would be much better as well. English teaching is great. I really enjoy teaching English. I am happy to keep doing it. That's why I teach on italki, where I work 20 hours a week and make over 300,000 yen a month. So the ways to make money are there. You've just got to find them. Of course, I would still recommend you come to Japan, but it's with all the caveats that salaries are lower, things are more expensive, there's more competition, there's less progression depending on where you will be. It's going to be much harder. Therefore, you need to prepare yourself for what's coming after before you even start, if that makes sense. That's just a little bit about if I think you should come to Japan in 2026 as an English teacher. Of course, I didn't even mention the JET program because we all know they pay much, much more. However, it's very hard for people to get on it nowadays. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.